Sunday Times, which says Britain mulls a Swiss-style tie with Brussels. Government deny it, absolutely, as well they might do. But the suggestion very much is, on the front page and deeper into the newspaper, that the government might just be testing the waters about a post-Brexit arrangement with the EU, a bit like Switzerland. Not full membership of the single market, but easier on trade rules. Now, as I said a little earlier, Downing Street rejected the claims. On Friday, however, the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, admitted on BBC Radio 4 that being a part of the single market could boost growth, but it wouldn't be the right way, as it would be against what people were voting for when they supported Brexit. Well, our very own GBNews Twitter poll suggests that he's right. And also, a latest YouGov poll, however, reveals that 1 in 5 who voted for Brexit now think it was the wrong decision. If the UK's view on Brexit has changed, could the government take a deep breath and actually deep down welcome a Swiss-style deal? Now, it's complicated, and there's only one person who can resolve it perfectly for me and for you, and that is the pollster, Professor Sir John Curtice, who is Professor of Politics at Strathclyde University, and there he is. Now, it is a GB Twitter poll, and so that may be saying one thing, but the YouGov poll did find a cooling of people's passions for Brexit. What's the Curtice snapshot of where we stand on this vexed issue?
Well, the honest truth is that not just the YouGov polling, but also polling in which people are asked whether or not they would vote in another referendum to rejoin the EU or to stay out, has really, for the course of the last year or so, pointed towards slightly more people being in favour of rejoining than voting to stay out, and that there has gradually been an increasing proportion of people who have said that the decision to leave the EU was wrong. So this got a lot of publicity when YouGov came out with its figure of 56% saying it was wrong, 32% right. But the truth is that YouGov question, which has been asked regularly all the way back to the autumn of 2016, has in recent weeks been persistently showing a gradual increase. So that's not just one-off poll. Sure. It's a very clear pattern, a very clear trend. And then the basic history is that when the Trade and Cooperation Agreement was concluded on Christmas Eve 2020 and implemented on New Year's Eve 2020, after that there was a clear spell of around 6, 7, 8 months when majority of people said, yeah, we should stay outside the European Union. But you will then remember, Alistair, the problems with lorry drivers. And apparently we didn't have enough lorry drivers to deliver the goods to our supermarkets or the petrol to our petrol stations. And that in part, at least, some people suggested was to do with Brexit. And certainly we made it somewhat easier for people in the European Union who had lorry driver skills to come here. Well, that was the point at which that majority support for staying out began to shift towards being in favour of leave. And basically that trend has continued gradually. And we're now on average in polls that ask that question, 58% of people saying I would vote to rejoin the EU, 42% of the opposite opinion.
But within that, there are vital numbers that you and I have talked about so many times, and that is the core Tory vote, already wounded and despondent by rising taxes and slowed down cuts in public spending. On this issue, Hunt's right. There would be real disquiet within the Tory ranks if there was any suggestion of a reversal of Brexit.
Well, 2 points to make there. I mean, the truth is the Conservative Party has lost many of the people who voted for it in 2019 who also voted Leave. I mean, less than half of Leave voters are now saying they're going to vote Conservative. It's not surprising because less than 30% of the whole electorate are saying they're going to vote for the Conservatives at the moment. But certainly if the Conservatives were hoping to regain some of those Leave voters, the party may not want to reopen this issue. But of course, in truth, what we're perhaps talking about here in the end, so far as the Conservative Party is concerned, is not changing the principle of Brexit, which is what you and I have been talking about so far, but rather what should Brexit mean? And you'll remember that Theresa May came up with one vision of Brexit, which basically suggested that we should continue to be aligned fairly closely with the single market, although certainly not members of it. And then Boris Johnson came along and Lord Frost, and they then pursued what became known as the trade as a hard Brexit, whereby we've basically maximised our opportunities for setting our own rules and controlling our own borders. But that is at the price of us making it much more difficult to export to the European Union. So I think the interesting thing is whether or not that debate about what Brexit should mean is going to be reopened inside the Conservative Party. I certainly accept there's no prospect at all of the Conservative Party reversing the principle of us being outside the European Union.
You're so good, John. I mean, that's magic analysis just there. Final quick one, and it's very cheeky, and you've only got 30 seconds. But who's right? Sir John Redwood, when he says in The Sun, the autumn statement has definitely cost the Tory party the next general election, or Nadeem Zahawi on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph saying, if the autumn statement works and we can cut taxes before the general election, we're back in with a chance. Redwood or Zahawi?
Well, the truth is, in the short run, at least, John Redwood is closer to the truth, because the 5 polls that we've had so far since the autumn statement show a slight easing of Conservative support, and certainly the bounce that the party enjoyed with Rishi Sunak becoming its leader, that has been reversed, and the Conservative Party is still over 20 points behind in the polls. Now, if the autumn statement works, well, the autumn statement, not the autumn statement, but the Office of Budget Responsibilities report that accompanied the statement said we're going to suffer a 7% declining living standards over the next 2 years. It's whether or not the Tories can win against that backdrop that's the real challenge, and it's going to be a very considerable one.
John, great to talk to you. Thank you for breaking into your Sunday afternoon to be with us, and look forward to talking to you again any time. Sir John Curtice there, Professor Sir John Curtice, as I always say, the pollster's pollster, but also a Professor of Politics at the great University of Strathclyde.